It's rolling?
Yeah. It is.
What about my makeup? I know my nose is always shiny. I don't care. Okay, we speak English? Okay. I remember when we shot Sense of Sleep, you were hiding from the camera, especially in those first scenes, and it's interesting.
But I remember, I don't know, it has nothing to do with this, but I remember I must have been used to so many years of hiding because I was on my mother's sets when she was acting and just hiding to look at the scene. So I was in this position of trying to find the place where nobody would say go away and just being like a mouse and spying on the scenes and loving it. And then suddenly when I was, I don't know, 12, when I did my first film, I remember hearing people say, "Move away," and I always thought it was me. And no, this time it wasn't me.
That's great. Actually, I had the same feeling with Mos Def. But Mos Def is so oblivious of the camera that he always ends up to have his back, like he's blocking the view.
Oh,
so sometimes I just have to ask him to go away. At least, if you don't want to be in the shot, don't stop the other from being in the shot. But I have to say, in counterparty, he has a great presence because he's not. If you put the camera here, he's not gonna feel the camera is there. And I think you have this quality too, that you can you can be scrutinized by the camera or I guess the microphone or whatever tool, and it doesn't feel you're communicating with this equipment. You're still communicating with the other person or the audience. But a lot of people have. To me, I see that as they have a little eye inside of their eye. So if, for instance, if I look at you and I'm aware that the camera is here, I'm not really looking at you. In fact, I'm looking at the camera here to make sure the camera looks at me. And a lot of actors have this problem. And it's very hard because you want to help them to be communicating with the person, to create the moment. But they have little eyes in the white of the eye that is looking to the camera, and it's horrible. You coming from probably the most famous couple from this era in France.
Yeah, because I was young when I started, I didn't think, oh, I have to be as good as them, or, you know, I was just having fun with the films. And with the album, I did think I was preoccupied, yeah. And that's why I chose to do it in English, was because I didn't want to be able, myself, to be able to compare the words with what he had written, and because it was too strong for me, so.
Using the foreign language is a good help.
It was easier for me, much easier. Because I remember I tried to write and it was so dreadful in French. And I read stuff and maybe I could have read a masterpiece, I wouldn't have seen it. I was just pushing everything away.
Too much thing interfering.
Yeah.
But there is this relation that's really complex and interesting because all those guys that worked on this album are a direct influence by what your father did.
Yeah.
And then basically their music is a tribute. Without you, well before they met you, their music is a tribute to what your father was doing.
But each time I could hear that something was close to one of my father's songs, in the music I was really proud. Yeah. It was in the words that I didn't want to be like a pale copy of something he had done. In the music, they came out like tributes.
Yeah.
And we were all aware of not my father's presence, but, you know, it was like everybody knew what I had in my head, that he was, you know, that I thought about him all the time. And Air and Nigel and Jarvis and Neil Hannon too, they were all very, very discreet about him. And I was always starting to talk about
Oh,
him.
yeah, yeah.
It was strange, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. But I think it's a nice loop that comes back to a sort of healthy place. The way, the inspiration and tribute, and then coming back to where it started in somewhere in a different generation.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
we're talking about being in the studio, and I like the idea that the studio is a place where things are created.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was also just being a witness. At first, because I wasn't composing any music, and I was trying to write lyrics, but I wasn't very good at it, and I was very embarrassed about myself and what I was writing. So at the beginning, I was really enjoying just being a witness of their work, and
Yeah.
just being able to be there whilst they were creating something, and instrument after instrument. It was such a magical time for me, and with Nigel behind the commands. But I remember before we started going in the studio, I remember just talking to Nicolas and Jean-Benoit for such a long time, because I was so scared to start something that I wanted to talk about what it was going to be like and what kind of music, and the words were so important for me, so what lyrics, and after a while they just pushed me and said, well, you can't just talk about it for years, you just you have to go in the studio and see what happens. And it's true, because maybe nothing could have happened, and it just did, and with no pressure. Until we weren't happy, we could go on. And that was a great luxury to have that.
So they were really probably so pleased to be next to you. And I think sometimes, even if you don't physically or actively participate, if you're there next to the person, it makes a whole difference.
I think it did make a difference, because
I feel they're doing it with you, even though you're
Yeah.
not singing. Otherwise, they would feel like just they're like session musician, and you come to do your vocals.
exactly, I would have hated to just receive a CD with all the tracks and then just go in the studio and record it. I wanted to be there. I wanted to be a part of everything, and I know that they knew that. I needed that time also for myself to be able to go behind the microphone and just try things.
That's nice. I mean, it reminds me, I did some video with Bjork where she's hardly not in it. We flew over Iceland and we took a lot of pictures.
Yeah.
But I was scared to death in a small plane. You go to this airport and you have some crashed plane on the side, and you have to go in the same one. And she would go always with me. And I think the fact that she was there,
yeah.
and even if she's not in front of the camera, it's like it goes through me like wave
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
And I think I always try to work this way, even if the artist is not in front of the camera, he has to be behind, and it's a collaborative effort.
Yeah. And Nigel was very important too, because he was a great judge, and I felt very close to him in his every judgment he had on the lyrics mainly. For me, he was a great support. Also to be able to think about subjects I wanted to talk about, and just to make it feel personal.
Uh-huh.
I had to do it that way.
How old is he?
Nigel?
Yeah.
He's exactly my age. He's 35.
Oh. And so he worked with Beck and Radiohead?
He worked with Beck, with Radiohead, with Paul McCartney. I was very intimidated at first, especially once the music was not finished, but there were times when I had to try and put my voice on. I was so embarrassed, thinking, oh, he's worked with such talent, and he,
He has the same feeling probably
he
toward
can see
you.
I'm a fake.
So you're gonna tour with the album?
I don't think I can. I don't think I'm capable of doing something. But maybe later, maybe when I won't feel I have to, I'll want to do it. But for the moment, I'm just too nervous about it.
I don't just think this nervousness is gonna give something to the concert.
No,
I think so.
no. Right.
But I think the awkwardness is very. He gives you a different level of connection with the audience, and I find that with Bjork. Bjork, okay, she's a very professional singer and she's done a ton of concerts, but she doesn't connect with the audience in a classical sense. She's not gonna talk to the microphone and say, "Hey, New York, I love you," all this bullshit. She's incapable.
No, of course, but she's such a performer that
I know,
something's
but I
happening.
think what I like the most in her concert is this non-connection she makes with the audience.
Yeah, but no, the thing is, I'm worried that and really, it's not fake modesty or something, but I'm just worried it'll be very boring, because I'm not a performer. So
Well, but
it's
to me,
just to
what's
be
boring
behind
is
the mic.
professionalism. There is some quality in not being in control of the situation.
Yeah, but also the thing is, for this album, because we did it all together with Air and Jarvis, well, the fact that I would be on stage on my own without them doesn't make any sense.
Of course, but why don't you tour with them?
Well, they have their own album to
All right,
release.
it's different, but I think you should tour with them. Yes, I saw them in Los Angeles, and they were doing this song with this singer that was doing their big hit at the time. I forgot her name, and she was so shy. It was a great moment. Obviously, she was just coming from one song, and she could hardly sing.
Yeah.
And it was like a great moment because all the audience wanted to go with her and help her, and it was really.
An American
Yeah,
singer.
it was in. Or I don't know if it's American or English.
I don't
It's
know.
a song that goes. Da-da-da. It's like one of their big hits.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And she sings on the album, or she?
Yeah. That was the singer on the album, but she sings few songs, or maybe only one. And she came for this song.
Well,
I can't sing it, but it goes da da da. It's really not. Oh no. So anyway, yeah, you should tour with them. You should not tour with professional killers.